Hi, my name is Tammy,
And I'm Jen.
and they call us Woo.
Hey, everybody, this is a continuation episode. You know that we
Mhm.
talked too much the last time. So, this is episode 14. Episode 13 is the beginning of this episode. So, if you have not listened to episode 13 yet, please go back and listen to that one so you are not completely lost. So, we will hopefully get our bearings about us and actually keep the next one to a minimum, but
We'll see.
enjoy this episode. Enjoy. We'll see you later. True story.
Yes.
Um, you brought up the inner child, which I made note that we need to discuss what that is in a future
Sure.
episode. Um, but with the inner child, that also brought up for me belief systems and our inner chatter, which is part of our next chakra. So the third chakra is the solar plexus, which is above your belly button, but below where your ribs connect. So it's like
Sternum
it's
area. Yeah.
sternum area. Yep. For most women, it's just below where your bra is. Um, and it's associated with the color yellow, which I love because I used to send people yellow flowers when I knew that they were going through something rough. Because if I heard them talking about not loving themselves, having weird belief patterns that were like creating discomfort and disease, I say weird because it's like, I think it's weird that we don't love ourselves, which I am just as guilty as the next person of saying weird things about myself that
Mm-hmm.
nobody else thinks. Um, but like having yellow in front of you stimulates this chakra. So if you have somebody who is in a depressed state or they've been telling themselves all of these awful beliefs about themselves, like sending them yellow flowers, it triggers their system, it triggers their energetic system to go, oh wait, let's bring this back into balance. Hey, give
Mm-hmm.
me more of that color, give me more of that
Mm-hmm.
yellow. Like, and so I used to send yellow flowers like anytime people were trying to heal emotionally, physically, anything, because it's a color of health as well.
It's a cool idea.
Um,
Well, you think of it even when you associate it with, the other things we think of when we think of yellow, like the sun. It's powerful. It gives you energy, and one of the things I notice a lot with people who are having problems with their solar plexus is posture. You think about like when you're kind of hunched over, and most of the time when you think of people who are kind of hunched and almost protective of the front of their bodies, they might not think that they look that way, but you look at a person who looks like that versus someone who is standing really tall, that solar plexus is really open. When you think of
yep.
your sternum, and I think especially living in the Midwest, where like oftentimes looking at someone else's shoes is like how you have a conversation versus like looking people face to face.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cultural aspect to that sometimes, to this idea of kind of like making yourself small, kind of hiding, versus the people who are like really, they walk into a room, their shoulders are open, their ribs are back, they're really like kind of displaying the solar plexus for you.
Yep.
It just exudes a lot of this confidence, a lot of this things you were talking about. And sometimes I find even just recommending for people to just try to stand that way and walk that way, even if they're doing it at home and no one else can see it,
Yep.
sometimes can have such an influence on the rest of how they feel. Like,
Yeah.
and I know you
Yeah.
hate the fake it till you make it thing.
Yes.
I don't think that's really faking it, but it is encouraging your body to work with that chakra too.
Yep.
And I always taught my daughter that too. It's like pulling those shoulders back, standing up straight, even if you don't feel confident, it makes you feel confident after you've done it
Yeah.
for a little while. And that has a large part to do with that solar plexus.
Yeah. Yeah. When you open up that area, you're allowing more energy to flow through that area. So you're
Mm-hmm.
stimulating that chakra, you're stimulating that system. This chakra is also really good for manifestation and transformation because it is increasing your personal power. It's all about keeping that confidence, keeping that posture. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you want to create? Like, Do you want to manifest this thing? Let's be confident in this. Let's show our power.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be a powerful creator. So, so this is also the space to look at your perception of self and your perception of the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it is so tapped into the belief systems and the inner critic and the
Mm-hmm.
inner chatter. Um, and it's all wrapped into your confidence and the way that you perceive yourself. So when you were talking about that hunched over posture, you're blocking the blood flow, you're blocking the energetic
Mm-hmm.
flow through the area
And
that
breath.
is,
You're blocking
yeah,
that nice
yeah.
deep breath. Yeah.
Yeah, you're holding yourself in this very stuck, stagnant position so that it's harder for you to stand in power.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You're making yourself
harder for
small
you.
physically.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And so by opening that up and by recognizing the flow, the movement through there, you're also allowing yourself to create more flow and movement and transformation and like motivation to
Manifestation.
move, yes,
Yeah. Like,
and
what
to
are the
move
things you
forward.
want? Your solar plexus can help you with that.
Yes.
And I find it kind of
Yes.
interesting too. It did remind me, one of the kind of assessment tools that I realized in myself when it came to chakras too is if there were specific colors that I really didn't like, there was a good chance that there was something that was imbalanced about that. And when I was younger, I really didn't like yellow that much. And now as I've gotten older, I realized how much that was really connected to the ways where I was trained to be small, um, whether it be as a woman, because there were certain things that I was trained that it weren't necessarily a woman's role. So sometimes that might happen in women. There were certain cultural things. I mean, it could happen in anyone, but there were certain cultural things about just being in a general area where making yourself, like standing proud, making yourself look proud, could be considered arrogant or could be
Mm-hmm.
considered off putting. So there's certainly a lot of things that play into that, where sometimes if you need to assess in yourself, even just considering, is there any colors that really bother me when I see them, or I don't like to see a lot of them? Maybe I should consider what chakra that's connected to and do a little self assessment and figure out if there's a reason that I don't like it. I have a much different feeling about all of it now, but
Yep.
it was very interesting to me when I learned about this stuff and I realized how much it interplayed into the journey of my life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that brings up color therapy. So there is specific
Mm-hmm.
um there's a lot of information on how colors affect us.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe we write that down as another
Yep,
topic of
it's going on my
conversation, color
list.
therapy. Yep.
But now we just need to try to keep up with all the things we keep saying we're going to talk about.
Yes, I know. Sorry, everybody.
This is our
Um,
life.
yes. So I'm actually going to move into the next chakra
Mm-hmm.
because the next chakra is one of my
Me
favorite
too.
chakras. It's the heart chakra, so it's the fourth chakra of the body. Um, and I'm going to add a bonus chakra in here too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll talk about the heart at first. So the heart chakra is right here. It's right where
Right
you
where you
think it
think
would
it
be,
would
over your
be.
heart.
Yep.
Yep, right over your heart. It's usually associated with the color green. Some people have also associated it with the color pink. Um, it is all about connection and love and bonding with other people and forgiveness and compassion. Everything that you think of is heart-centered.
Mm-hmm.
It's right around the heart chakra.
I think this one is
Um,
the simplest to understand. You know, people can
yes,
make a lot of connections
yes.
with what would make sense to be part of your heart chakra.
Yeah, well, and it's all about following your passions. So when you're passionate about something, you're standing in a space of love. You're standing in your own divine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what makes it my favorite because the heart chakra also feeds up into the high heart chakra. So most people don't talk about the high heart, but so your heart chakra is right here over your heart. The high heart is between this chakra and your throat chakra. So it's like right here. The
Like
high heart,
clavicle, generally
yep,
like clavicle area for those listening.
yep. And so this one is much more pink. It does get some of that green flowing up from the heart chakra into it, but it is all about our loving connection to the divine.
Hmm.
So the heart is a much more human heartedness. So it's all about your humanness and like love in everything that we interact with in the 3D world. Your high heart is more like looking at divine unconditional love. So standing in that unconditional space and recognizing that we are a loving being, we were created as love,
Hmm.
and connecting our passions through the divine energy that's coming through us. And that one's actually my favorite
For
chakra.
those who can't see her right now, she's just beaming, which, I mean, you're beaming a lot anyway, but it was really fun to watch you talk about the heart chakra because of how clearly inspired and good it makes you feel. I
Yeah.
like the idea of green too because for me, my connection with nature is a very loving thing.
Mhm.
So when I think, and I love the color green, surprise, surprise. Um, but when I think of all of the things in the world that are green that just make me feel good, they make me feel good, they make me feel loving towards everything because I feel like it represents our connection with
Mhm.
everything, with nature, with other people. It's all one and the same.
Yeah.
And that is very much something that comes from the heart. And I'm totally a tree hugger, if anyone didn't know that. Like, I literally hug trees because they're amazing. And mountains and all types of stuff. I like nature. But I know when I am in nature, like my family will do some backpacking sometimes. And the best thing is when you feel like it's just you, your family, and nature, because you
Yes.
just get to have this really like, it grounds you. You get that nice peaceful feeling, but also it feels like it's very opening to that heart chakra. So if people are
Yeah.
feeling like they're having some struggles with that and you hate nature, you should probably consider why you might hate nature because gives you everything that you need in this life. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing that we use on a daily basis that hasn't been taken from the natural world around us.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people who are like, I hate trees, I mean, I get it. People have allergies and stuff. But if you're really just someone who does not like to be outside and does not like nature, consider maybe trying to start a connection a little bit more because it could be something that's happening with your heart chakra.
Yeah. I love that you brought up trees because that picture that I hung behind us, just a little bit of a side note to everybody, because I'm moving, all of my artwork and stuff is down. So we did some staging of my space behind us, and I hung that before we started so that there was color for y'all. But
It
so
is a
this
very
image,
pretty picture for those who
so
can't see it, but it's very
yes.
colorful.
So I would urge anybody who is listening and not watching to go and watch the YouTube picture because this is a friend of mine, Lisa DeRoy. She's a local photographer, but she does energetic photography. So it's
Oh,
multidimensional
cool.
photography. And the image that's behind me, it's actual uh, she uses the slide that allows the camera to pick up on the energy of different people and different beings. And like this is a picture of trees, and all the colors that are in there are actually the energy of the trees. And then
That's
she
so cool.
mirrors it so that you can see it.
They're so
But
balancing
so
too. Maybe we could add
we'll,
this picture on social media for anyone who wants to just go take a look at the picture.
I
We'll
will
put
talk
that
to
on our
Lisa and
Facebook
see if
and
she's cool with us posting the
sure,
image.
yes, thank you.
Um, but so if you when you look at the image, she has taken these pictures of these trees and you can see all the different colors. You can see all the different chakra colors. So it's not just humans who have chakras. Animals have them,
Mm-hmm.
trees, plants all have energy fields. And you can see the different chakras and the different colors, like especially if you look at her work. Um, and it's beautiful. Like we're all so connected.
Excuse
So
me.
for you to talk about the connection with trees and nature, like trees in particular have a very high vibratory state.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do go and hug trees, it's helping root you, it's helping ground you and balance you energetically.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting that energy from their system um flowing through your own system to help you balance.
Which
Like,
totally makes sense. And it's cool to
yes.
see a picture with all the different colors. I've never seen anything like that before, but it makes sense to me too because trees process so many things for us to keep us alive. So it would
Yeah.
only make sense to me that they do have a lot of different colors in their chakra system because they basically take all the waste and turn it into something that we can use. And when you even think of like the redwoods and stuff like that, I was just watching something about them the other day. They're interconnected. Their root system, they're ancient, but their root system is what keeps them interconnected. But also how much work they do for us in balancing everything
Mhm.
back out and keeping the balance in the earth, keeping us alive is pretty epic. So that's really cool to see it in
Yeah.
energetic form like that with all those colors. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely put a link to her website up
Yeah.
because I used to carry her images in my shop when I owned a metaphysical shop. And just standing there, there's energetic coding and there's some DNA coding in there. Um, we'll talk about that a different time. Um, so I've actually done some work and like meditated on the images that we would sell. And there's all kinds of energy that comes through these images to help people balance and ground and
Mm-hmm.
up level the coding that's within their DNA. Coding, not like coating, coding. So code. Um, and yeah, trees and nature are amazing for helping you balance your
Mm-hmm.
chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
So go hug a tree. Go hug a
Yes.
tree.
At the very least, look out at all the beautiful green. Um, right now, the majority of our listeners are in the US, so we're all experiencing some type of going into spring or,
Yes.
fresh green stuff opening if it's not already open. So, do maybe a little heart chakra thought with that, putting a
Yeah.
little love out there into the trees and they'll give it right back to you. We
Yeah.
should probably
Well,
move on to the next one though. I feel
I was
like
gonna say
we're
we're
going to end up with
chatty
another 2-hour
and
episode.
that's we're chatty and that's perfect for the next chakra because the next chakra is the throat
That's
chakra, which is
true.
all about communication.
Yes.
So the throat chakra is typically it's right over your throat. It's typically associated with the color blue. Maybe that's why I'm chatty today. I have a blue shirt on.
And
Could
you're
be it.
also
And
staring at my
blue
blue hair the
walls.
whole time.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by blue right now. Um, but it is the throat and the upper shoulders, the neck. This chakra is one that I see closed down quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like people shrink this chakra because they don't believe that they can vocalize things. They're
Mm-hmm.
afraid to voice their concerns. Um, Giving speeches, public speaking is a huge fear for people. And a lot of the time, those people have a throat chakra that's very closed. They might also have some stuff going on with like solar plexus and with their
Mm-hmm.
sacral chakra as well. But the throat chakra in a lot of people is closed because they've been hiding their voice for so long, or they don't feel like they can vocalize because of belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And for a little bit of clarity, that doesn't necessarily mean it's people who just don't say much. It could be someone who
yes.
says a lot, but it's not real. It's not really
Yes.
what they have inside. It's like true expression is what happens with your
Yes.
throat chakra, not some of
Yes.
the fluff we see everywhere. So, I mean, like,
Yes.
internet trolls doesn't mean they have a great, you know, throat chakra.
Yeah.
They are more than likely covering up other truth, and they could potentially
Yes.
have a very closed throat chakra, even though they say
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Yes. Very true. The other thing I want to say with this is going to sound counterintuitive, but this chakra is also often associated with clairaudience. So psychic hearing. So when we when we are finding our voice, when we are allowing ourselves to speak truth and be in truth, we are also able to listen and hear because it's a communication center.
Mm-hmm.
So it's allowing you to be open to all different types of communication. So a lot of people who are clairaudient, they're receiving the the psychic information through the throat chakra. Um, of course, this is something that is theorized. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know this for sure, but this is my belief that we are receiving here. So when you are open, a lot of the time people will start psychically hearing more information, if they're willing to communicate that. Um,
Interesting.
a lot of singers also have very open throat chakras
Mm-hmm.
because they are vocalizing. I don't know if I've talked about toning in the past.
I
Um,
think a little bit, but I don't
Probably a little
think
bit.
we
It was
talked much.
probably one of those things that I was like, we should talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so toning is really good for people who feel like they have not been open for communication or they have struggles communicating with other people, toning on a regular basis. So just allowing yourself to release any tone that you want. So um, humming is good, just like oming. If people don't know what that is, it's like going om
Mm-hmm.
or just different sounds, allowing them to come out of your system.
So
Think,
interestingly enough,
sorry.
there's a therapist that some of my family members have seen for a while, and she talks about VU breaths, and
Yeah.
that's another way to kind of relax your system when you're high
Mhm.
anxiety and stuff like that. And it's the same. It's a different perspective on it, but same basic concept. And that's like doing the VU, like you're making a
Yeah.
noise,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Now, once you said that, I was like, oh, that is toning, and I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
sorry
and
for the
I always think
interruption.
about, no, totally fine. I love that you're adding that little bit of information because I hadn't heard of that before.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to work with kiddos with special needs, and I worked with a lot of kids who were on the autism spectrum. And one of the things that I noticed with a lot of the kiddos who were nonverbal or struggled with vocalizing is they would make a lot of noises, but they couldn't communicate. And what I started recognizing as I started doing energy work with some of them is that they were far more open when they would start making the sounds.
Mm,
Energetically, their throat chakra would open. It was a way for their body and for their energetic field to try to rebalance, to bring them into a space where they could communicate.
okay.
And so I started doing some channeling and started receiving some information from my guides talking about people who are nonverbal. A lot of the time will make noises because it starts opening up the throat chakra and energetically they can communicate with people. Um, and other people will start receiving more information with them and understanding their needs better if they're making the sounds because they're
Mm,
opening up the communication center.
okay.
So, so if you have somebody in your life who doesn't have the ability to verbalize or communicate well verbally, um, giving them space to make sounds or singing or humming, things like that, can help open up the communication center so that they can receive and give the energetic information that you'll receive into your own energy field.
That's interesting. You know,
Yeah.
I relate it to the deaf community a little bit because there's a lot of complicated history around verbalization in the deaf
Mhm.
community. There was
Yeah.
a period of time where there was many people who grew up without a language that was very easily understood by them because there was a point in time where they were taught that signing was bad and they needed to be able to vocalize and blah blah blah. Anyway, that's a whole thing. If you're interested, definitely there's a lot of really amazing deaf influencers out there on social media that talk about some of that too. But the interesting thing is when I started learning sign language and I developed a lot of friendships with a lot of my deaf friends, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the way that they communicate and the things that they're interested in. Like, I've been to several concerts and clubs and stuff with my deaf friends, and I've had so many people go, why would a deaf person want to go to a concert? I'm like, they still can experience a lot of the same thing that we can. First of all, you don't really know what amount of hearing loss they have, but also even if they are more profoundly, they have more profound hearing loss, there's a lot of things that come from like the beats and the feeling and the
Mhm.
reverberation of music. Like, honestly, I feel like they feel sound in their soul, right? Like
Yep. Oh,
they
yeah.
they have a great connection to sound. So even when you think of these communities that you think like, oh, well, they don't really have language, as far as vocalization, they do. They
Yep.
absolutely do, and they have that connection. And that was kind of a cool thing to tie it into, nonverbal people
Yep.
in on the autism spectrum too, because there's a lot of connection to not necessarily what you think of as sound, but sometimes, but these tones, these feelings, this
Yep.
stuff that's happening when we are vocalizing or
Yeah.
creating music or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. It kind of makes me think of when I was a kid, I used to love drum beats. And when we would go to parades, I would get so excited about the drums when they'd come through, and I would close my eyes and just listen,
Mm.
just like not listen with my ears, but listen with my body because I could feel the drums and I could feel like the energy from it. And I've always been connected to drums. I love drums. Um, but yeah, yeah. So I feel that.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
when you think of stuff like that and how broad the throat chakra really is, like what it encompasses,
yeah,
in all different forms of communication and all different forms of, hearing or feeling tones and stuff like that.
yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. Well, so we have two more chakras that we're going to talk about.
Yes.
So
Thanks
number
for
six.
sticking with us.
This may be two episodes, just so
We'll
everybody
see.
knows. So the next one is number six. It's the third eye. It is associated with, so it's associated with indigo and violet. So there's a spectrum in there. It's right in the brow area, so kind of like um between the eyebrows, but slightly up, not necessarily in the middle of the forehead, but like just slightly above the eyebrows. I'm wobbling mine around a bit much right now. But it is all about our perception of spirit and energy around us and our intuition. So a lot of people will receive psychic images through their third eye. They'll receive psychic
Also,
information through their
sixth
third eye.
sense. People don't
Yes.
always understand that that's why it's called the sixth sense. It's
Yes.
one of the reasons. I know people talk about the
Yeah.
five senses, but also it is related to the chakra.
Yep. The sixth chakra.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is associated with both the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. So some people will say the pineal gland is associated with the crown chakra. Some people say that there's a little bit of give and take there. So the pineal gland does help us to receive information intuitively. It's also a gland that was used very much in like caveman days to sense what was coming, sense what was happening.
Hmm.
So it's going back to our roots in using our intuition. Um, but the pituitary gland, it's also like about the other systems within the body and how your body's processing information and how
Hmm.
your body's processing like nutrients that are coming in and how your body, the flow of everything through your system. Um, so it is connecting us to the the divine information that's coming in. It's like its information is going straight into our brain from the energetic sources around us.
Hmm. It's like what people would consider your extrasensory reception or
Yes.
intuition, I think, is a great one. Because even if you don't believe that you can, understand or feel the things that are happening around you energetically, everybody will agree that you have intuition. And there's sometimes that your intuition tells you things and you couldn't necessarily pinpoint seeing or hearing or, those physical things,
Yeah.
getting that information. That way you just have this feeling because you've been receiving information intuitively. And some
Yeah.
people just happen to have much stronger intuition skills, but it doesn't mean that it's not accessible for everybody.
I was gonna say it's just much more developed in some people. It's
True.
not that it's stronger, it's just more developed in some
Lots of
people.
practice.
Yes, yes. And then we're gonna move into number seven.
Hmm.
So number seven is the crown chakra. So it's right above your head. Um, so some people will say it's at the top of the head. It actually sits just above the top of the head as far as I'm concerned. Again, this is one that opens up instead of opening front to back. So it is your direct connection to the divine. So while we're receiving intuitive information into our brow, into our third eye, we're specifically receiving information directly from divine coming down through the crown. So it is usually associated with violet or white. So white is a very divine, very clearing color. So it's
Hmm.
usually the color of purity. Um, like because I don't, it's is white the lack of color or is it the blending of all colors? I always get confused.
White is the absence of color.
It's the absence of color. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I was like,
interestingly enough, white
yes.
has a very strong, purity symbolism or whatever,
Hmm.
but also in some cultures, it is a symbolism for death, which is
Oh,
not necessarily conflicting with this
yeah. Yeah.
because, as we all know, I mean, connection to the divine is connection
Yeah.
to entities, beings, people
Yeah.
everywhere. So it
Beyond the
could,
veil. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Sweet. Okay. I did not know that. Thank you for that tidbit of information.
Yes. And it's
Um,
not necessarily connected to death in like a sorrowful way. It's
yeah.
connected in a respectful way, from what I understand. If anyone has
Yeah.
more information on that, please feel free to chime in because I am not of the cultures that use white as death symbolism.
Yeah. So I always associate it with the clouds. So it's like you're going up through the clouds into the ethers. So like my brain goes to, okay, when you're connecting up to the divine energies, when you're connecting into the ethers, when you're connecting into other realms, you have to go through the clouds. That
Don't
is
you
not
just live
necessarily
there?
true.
Don't you just
I
live up in
try
the
not
clouds?
to live there because I want to be grounded too. I want to be balanced, Tammy.
I know.
But that's what I think of. I think of like going up through the clouds and
Hmm.
that the clouds, as long as it's not a cloudy, rainy day, are like white and fluffy and puffy and all happy and yeah. So that's what I usually think of if I'm trying to connect. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go through the clouds now. Just me being me. I will throw in that we do have a lot more chakras than just the major seven,
Hmm.
um, plus the bonus high heart that I talked about. Um, And we even have chakras in our fingertips. We have chakras in a lot of different places, and I would urge anybody who's listening to go and look a little bit more into chakras. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually a fascinating system. There's actually science that has started showing that the chakra systems show in certain imaging, as we've talked about, and as I talked about last week with the biofield imaging, you can actually see the chakras, you can
Mm-hmm.
see the energy system. Um, if you have certain types of imaging. So this isn't just one of those woo-woo things that there's nothing to show
Mm-hmm.
what's actually happening. It's not just a belief system. I mean, there are beliefs involved in it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot more to it.
If
And
if
it's
you're a
rolled into
very
so many things.
sorry.
No, go, 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 go.
If you're a very visual person, I would highly recommend trying a pendulum as well. Um, I know sometimes people hear that and they think like scary witchcraft, whatever. That's really not what it is. It's just crystals. We all know that crystals, rocks, they, like everything else on this planet, they grow, they have energy. And so it's really just utilized as a tool to be able to assess certain things. And it was one of my favorite things when I was learning about the chakra system, because I am such a visual, hands on learner, to be able to actually hold the pendulum above where a chakra should be and see it start to move on its own was mind blowing for me. So if you're new to all of this, I would recommend trying that and just seeing what happens and not being too hard on yourself. Like, come to it from a place of actual, wanting to learn, wanting to experience. If you come to it from that place of genuine interest,
Mm-hmm.
you probably will see more results, because sometimes if you're in your own way, you're kind of like blocking some of your signals. But if you have, a friend, family member, someone who's interested in this with you, just have them lay down, try using a pendulum, try putting it over the different parts we were talking about, and just see what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
you might be really surprised at how cool it actually is and how much movement you'll see.
Yeah.
They're pretty awesome. We'll have to talk about pendulums another time
I
too,
was gonna say, I
because
love that. You know that I teach classes on that stuff. So
yes.
yeah, I would love to talk about that.
But you can find pendulums at crystal shops. You can find them in a lot of different places. You can connect with Jen,
Mhm.
because she does offer workshops where people can build their own. I'm glad you said something, because I kind of forgot that you did that among all the other things that you do. So anyway, if you're interested in having some type of visual thing that you can connect to, if that resonates with you, try it and see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so we have talked about this for I have no idea how long we've even been
I
talking
do not
today,
remember either.
but but I'm super glad that everybody was here and walked through the chakras with us, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly hoping that they continue this experience after we get done talking today.
Yeah.
And
I hope we made it a little more real for people too, and it's not just this like crazy out there concept
yeah.
that only, tie dye hippies talk about, which is fine. Tie dye hippies are great too, but that there's actually some real things that it can be connected to, and hopefully it helps people process this whole idea of like, oh, why do I have this issue with this color, or oh, I have seen things that actually make sense with that chakra or whatever, so they can feel that more real connection to their energetic system and understand it a little better. Just
Yeah.
like we want to understand our physical body, understanding that will help us a lot in our own personal healing and development too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for joining us today. If you liked this, if you want to share it with everybody, we would love if you share it with
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And if you have any ideas on things that you want us to talk about, please share. We have a list going. Both of us have been writing stuff down. But we would love to hear your ideas too. We always
Yeah,
listen to what you guys are saying and we want to know what you think. So
absolutely.
thanks for listening. We'll
Until
see you
next
next week.
week.
Bye. Thanks everybody for listening. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe and check the show description for the links to the show. We would love to hear your thoughts below on this episode, as well as anything that you'd like us to talk about on future episodes. Remember, everybody, you are unique just the way you are, and that is why they call us woo.
Mm-hmm.